nerds. This is Scene a Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing well, Sarah. I promise I won't break into song after watching the Star Trek Strange New Worlds musical.
Well,
But
I've
I
been
did,
talking to you for 5 minutes, and you haven't, so I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
expecting that to occur.
I know. But I was practicing some piano earlier this evening, so yeah, I just wanted to warn people. They saw my tweet that I'm not going to sing because I can't. So don't worry.
Um, so I have a question.
Yeah,
Because before you brought up the Arrowverse musical episode in
yeah,
comparison, were we podcasting together when that happened? I
we
don't
were,
believe.
we were,
We were? Okay.
I
I
believe
was
so. Yeah,
thinking, but like Supergirl especially, we were so like, yay, Supergirl. Oh crap, Supergirl. Yay,
yep, yep.
Gotcha. I don't even think I watched the final season.
You didn't, because I think we tried, and then both of us were like, no. And so we bailed. And I did watch the finale, but I think it was sort of like Mr. Robot, where it was one of those things where I stayed on, I stayed on with Mr. Robot all the way to the end. Um, but Supergirl, I bailed, and then just for like, well, I'll just tune into the finale. I did that, but yeah, we were potting when that occurred. I think was that the third or fourth season of Supergirl? I can't remember now, but
Well, I didn't even remember that happened until you
yeah,
reminded. So do not
yeah,
ask me.
okay,
And okay, you're gonna update us on Fantastic Four casting news that just broke because I don't
yeah.
think
So yeah, yeah. I know you've had a hell of a week, and I'm glad we're actually able to record, because I know it was iffy there for a moment. But yeah, so today on the Hot Mic is the podcast with John Roca, Jeff Snyder, broke some news on, well, some scoops on the Fantastic Four, and as far as some casting. And the first one is that Vanessa Kirby, who just most recently was in Mission Impossible. A lot of folks probably remember her from The Crown. It was being eyed to play Sue Storm in the film, and they're basing, from what all that we are gathering, is the film is going to be centered around Sue Storm. And then Joseph Quinn, who was in Stranger Things, is eyed to play Johnny Storm in the film as well. So those are the two things that Snyder was like, take pretty 99% confident that that's going to be the case.
who's
Hmm?
playing Johnny. Who's playing Johnny Storm?
Joseph Quinn, he was Eddie
Yeah,
Munson
yeah.
in Stranger.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
didn't hear his name, but yeah, I know
yeah,
who that is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So, and
he
for
does
folks,
a
yeah.
job. If you've watched Stranger Things, you know why I said that.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. So, that's those were the two, like, things he was, felt very, very, very comfortable running with, and even published a story later, in the day about that. Then of course, I know there's been a lot of rumors on Twitter or X or whatever, with Matt Smith possibly being brought in to read for Reed Richards, but is apparently not going to happen. And and Adam Driver apparently had like dipped out of being considered for Reed Richards, but now the studio might be going back to him. So that's some of the other things that are going on with Fantastic Four. Also, Ivan Moss Bacharach, I think he's from the Bear.
Who is he in
Has,
the?
he is oh gosh, he's the older guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh, he's
I,
cousin?
I believe, yeah, I believe so. It's been a while since I watched The Bear, and I still have to watch season 2, so I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember his character in the show.
I just looked it up.
With the beard. Yeah, so he's being looked at, that role in the film, and I think let's looking at the, those were the main, and then Those are the main things that Schneider was breaking in his story today. But that's where we are as far as Fantastic Four right now.
That's an interesting choice for the Thing. I like it. Um, but I think yeah, we'll see. I mean, like any movie with casting news, especially not confirmed, like I'm sure a lot of these are going to come true.
Yeah,
It's
because
the director these days that you have to watch out for.
yeah. So Max Shackman's
So funny.
still tied to the film, and as
Yeah,
far as
it's still in
directing
the
it,
early
and
days.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, even like Ebron, I mean, Schneider made it clear that he has looked to be cast, being eyed for a role in the film, but it's not necessarily the Thing. The Thing still hasn't been cast yet. So that's at least according to Jeff Snyder's sources. But I'll drop a link to this on our show notes, later so folks can check it out.
Yeah. I also like Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. However, it all will depend on her chemistry with the other guy.
With Reed Richards, whoever the cast is Reed Richards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're gonna do a love affair between those two, I mean her other guy, Namor,
Mm-hmm.
you already met
Mm-hmm.
him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I was in Marvel Studios, I would be saying, let's have Namor do some screen tests. Just because we've now seen a few of the Sue Storm, Reed Richards love stories played out on the big screen, and all the comic book nerds always talk about, yeah, but then Namor. So I'm curious about this scandalous story that they could tell with a more adult Fantastic Four. But yeah, so some interesting choices that I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at any of those. Now that we've connected parts with people, and it's just another reminder that Will hasn't watched The Bear season 2, but you
I
know
have
what?
not.
He's too busy watching musical episodes of Star Trek. So
Exactly. Yeah. I
yeah.
know. I know.
And so that leads us to something that I know both Will and I have seen, is the Loki season 2 trailer, which I will tell you, I'm only watching this one time. I watched it once. I'm not going to it again. I'm not reading headlines or clicking on things that say, "Hey, look at all the Easter eggs," because I don't want to know a thing. I don't want to know
Yeah.
nothing about this season.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's going to be good? Yes. Do I think that if I theory spiral before it actually drops, will I be disappointed? Yes, because that was part of my magic of Loki season 1. I went into
Mm-hmm.
Loki season 1 having seen that trailer one time, never being the biggest fan of Loki or even the Thor story in general. But that fucking first episode and last episode, like, near perfection. So, yeah, it's got a lot
Yeah.
to live up to, but I really like this trailer. I liked it.
I did. Yeah. I'm 100% there with you as far as I've only watched it once and just, yeah. And, saw everything I needed, and it reminded me how much especially, that that first season of Loki, and even now in WandaVision, really, really, those were some damn good programs. I just, they grow in stature as the more distance I get from them.
Yeah.
And they really do. And this trailer, yeah, it was great. Yeah, we did see Kang, and, of course, there was news today about Jonathan Majors and his trial getting pushed back to September. But, that being said, as far as the rapport between Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston and everything was like, okay, this is good. This is good. After the disappointment of Secret Invasion, I just need to watch it once, and I don't need to go, like you said, down the rabbit hole of what does this mean and all that kind of stuff? Because I'm just setting myself up for disappointment. So I'm just going to take the high and enjoy seeing the posters, the key art that comes out over the next few weeks, but no more trailers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing that I might do between now and Loki season 2 premiere is go back and rewatch Loki season 1. Because I've already rewatched the first and the last episode a few times.
Yeah.
And B, it's just to refamiliarize with myself with what happened,
Yeah.
the characters, and just a build up to Loki season 2. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm there with you.
How many episodes is Loki season 2? Is it 6? Is it 8?
I haven't looked at, I mean, I really am like going in cold with this thing. I haven't even looked at the episode count. I think it's the Marvel 6, but
The Marvel 6.
Yeah.
That sounds right. There wasn't a whole bunch of them the first season either. It went by really quickly. I think there was 6, if I'm not mistaken. So we both watched They Cloned Tyrone on Netflix. And so Will, what did you think about that?
So They Cloned Tyrone. So I really, really enjoyed this movie. I really didn't know it. I went into it expecting one thing and got something completely different. And
been expecting.
Well, I thought I knew it was going to be a sci-fi thriller mystery, but I didn't. And whenever it first started, it gave me like these like 70s blaxploitation movie vibes that I wasn't expecting at first. And then I was like, oh, what time period is this thing in? And then of course as things progressed, I was like, oh, okay. I think it's like present day, but even so, it was just the way that it started kind of caught me off guard, and 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 really how like the story that it was just basically like telling as far as this, I guess this existential, like, I guess like in this like existential like phase of movie watching right now, as far as who am I, what's my place in the world and in the universe and in America and all that kind of stuff, because that's what this movie was like doing, especially for, in particular, the African American experience and stuff. So I was like, wow, this movie just like, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but it had a lot of layers. And even though I enjoyed it, and I will say my only quibble with it was I did feel that the third act kind of fell apart a little bit.
Ooh, interesting.
It's as far as just where they were going, but they redeemed it with the ending.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that was, I mean, just to try to be, not so I'm just like gushing. I did, I mean, real time, I was like, I'm not feeling this part here. But everything else about it, I just really, really love this film. And, I did, even the night of I was watching it, I tweeted that it was brilliant. And even though I had issues with portions of the third act, when we do get the reveal as far as who is behind it and the ending, what I thought, and where it was like the Scooby-Doo mystery, and they even kind of allude to it in the film.
Oh my God. Yeah.
A drug dealer, a pimp, and a prostitute.
They don't allude to it. They outright say it. They don't know. That's not allude.
They outright say it. Yeah. I know. I'm just like, no. It's just like, I'm trying to remember, like watch the director on a couple podcasts and stuff, Jewel Taylor. And so I'm trying to like, did he say that in the movie or did he say that in the podcast? So they're starting to blend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing that they did say in the movie to that point is they did have the Scooby-Doo mystery and of course the Nancy Drew, and they, so they weren't equipped to like be the mystery solvers, but they had the tools they need to like solve what was going on. So those are my overall, this was out of the gate thoughts on the film.
Yeah. Will is prime audience for this movie. I am not. I did watch it. I did pay attention to a lot of it. Why I commented interesting when you said that you felt like the third act fell apart. I feel like the first 20, not even 20 minutes, it actually went on for a while. First hour and a half. I know that's a huge chunk of the movie, but pretty much the whole Scooby-Doo, like, oh, I saw you got shot and you died. Why are you here? Then that leads to this. Then that leads to this. Then that leads to this. And then they're eating chicken and all this stuff. And then there's hair product and all this. All of that, I was just like, okay, yeah. I saw a lot of this in the trailer, guys. Because I thought the third act and obviously the ending, is the best part of the movie for me. Because that's when I wouldn't say anything, I wasn't surprised by anything.
No, yeah.
I think it's very easy to stay ahead of the characters, especially for some reason. I saw this trailer like months ago. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it's amazing the YouTube commercials I get. I have no idea. My algorithm is always very on point. So I already had an idea of what the story was doing. So I spent a lot of the first hour and a half being like, to your point, when the heck was, like, what is the, what year are we in? Because I have, let me see, I have Jamie Foxx, Slick Charles, who like a 70s pimp, like from, or even not even 70s, like Austin Powers pimp. That's all I can think. It felt like in a different time. I don't know where I would place Yo-Yo necessarily, because she actually felt the most present day.
Yeah.
I would say Fontaine was stuck in the 2000s, which I say the 2000s just because why, again, I spent a lot of time questioning what is the year of this movie? Like, where are we in time? Is because they kept referencing Hollow Man.
Yeah. Well,
like, that is a deep pool. So in any of your watching the interviews, did anybody bring that up? Like, why did they keep going back to Hollow Man?
I did see one where they did bring up Hollow Man, but usually it was like the Scooby-Doo. And then, of course, the other pools was like, what if Undercover Brother and,
No, like, I'm not talking comparison movies. Like, in the movie, they reference those.
Yeah.
Hollow Man multiple times.
Yeah,
I didn't hear the other movies referenced.
No, yeah, well, Hollow Man, Hollow Man, well, you were asking me like what other movies they brought up. I mean, those were the other ones they brought up in some of the interviews.
No, I meant, did anybody ask the creators why, like, their love for Hollow Man?
Yeah, no one, I don't think anyone asked the creators, but I know there was one reviewer that I did watch who talked about Hollow Man and just sort of what that meant as far as just aspects of that film. It's been a long time since I watched Hollow Man, so I couldn't.
Well, yeah, it was a flop. It was a Kevin Bacon flop. It's a very, and they recently, and I'm blanking on the name of the movie. It's with the girl who's from Handmaid's Tale and Mad Men. It came out just a few weeks ago, or not weeks ago, a few years ago, I think pre-pandemic, and I'm trying, Invisible Man or something?
Yeah, it was it literally dropped like right before the world shut down.
Yeah. And that actually arguably is a better movie, but it's the same premise. So yeah, I spent a lot of time questioning the year. And then we got to the ending, and because there was a good 20 minutes where I was like, if his name is Fontaine, who the heck is Tyrone?
Yeah. So that was the thing that kept me in there. That
I
was
at one point had a theory that it was the brother because they called him Ronnie. And I'm like, oh, so they cloned they cloned his brother. Maybe it was a twin. So, but then the moment I knew that Fontaine was a clone of the creator was when we met Kiefer Sutherland's character.
Okay.
Yeah, because just the fact that it was Chester who was the driver and another clone, and I forget Kiefer Nixon kept referencing like, well, I'm not the person in charge. I'm not the person in charge, and I'm like, well, yeah, because if you were, there would be 900,000 of you. So somebody else. And so that's when I figured I didn't quite connect the dots that it did draw back to the brother's death. But I liked that part and kind of just this horror story that came out of grief.
Yeah, and a horror story, and I know that was in the third act, and that was the part that started to the upswing that redeemed it for me. It was more just to your point about the paint by numbers as far as the storytelling. I mean, in this film, it totally knew what it was doing. I mean, it wasn't like, it was very like A to B to C as far as like the beats they were going on. But I think with the whole like Scooby-Doo aspect of it, as far as like the plan that Fontaine and Slick came up with to get Yo-Yo out of the bunker there and rescue her. That's where I was kind of like, okay, yeah, okay. But whenever we did get to when he does meet his older, I guess the scientist, and he tells the story about why he created the clones to begin with, and it had that damning line, assimilation is better than annihilation.
Yeah.
And just the self-hate that was going on there.
Right.
And all it just resonated because it's like, damn, it's like, that's like deep as far as some of the things that we see and, very prominent members of the African American community, as far as not getting political or anything, but like Clarence Thomas, and even like recently Neil deGrasse Tyson was making some like comments where he was like, oh, I'm a scientist. I'm not a black scientist. And I'm like, dude, it's just that level of like, just acknowledge, be proud of yourself, be proud of like your blackness, and be proud that you're African American, and not get indulged in this kind of this self-hate and angst that we see in people. And so, that was where this film, like, I was like, this is what made me say whenever I was like, this is brilliant, because even though it had a very like A to B to C kind of storyline, but the deeper things that they had going on within this film is why it just like took it to the next level for me, and why I really ultimately enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about movies that have horrible third acts and horrible endings. But then we also say, but the buildup was so good. And did you see this moment and this? And then it just collapsed. Where this one almost had the inverse. Where I actually liked the plan I don't know why, but I'm like the complete opposite of you, where it was the mystery of it all, the picking up on the clues, where I was just like, okay, I feel like this part has been better told in other things that I've seen, but okay.
Yeah.
And then it just became very much like, and then they heard this, and then this led them there, and then this.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
the MacGuffin of it all.
yeah.
But yeah, but that the ending was where I was like, okay, this movie is pretty good. I mean, we recently watched Oppenheimer. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard to,
And I guess that's what I've been. I'm like, that's well, like these film trip kicks now. Like this weekend I'm planning to go see Barbie. So I'm like, okay, is this like my taste in movies right now? These existential like questions of existence and everything.
I don't know when I will see Barbie. I've heard some things. I've heard a lot of things about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I kind of am like hesitant to watch it just
Yeah.
because I kind of already know what to expect, so I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to hit me. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, I want
yeah.
to pick up, I want to go back to something you said though, as far as like how we had the inverse reactions to this film, because I think for me, the reason why I like the first a little bit, and maybe it's just the influences of things like, the goddamn fried chicken. And I think, these urban legends that you have in black culture and other thing like Church's Chicken, there's a chicken, there's a chain, and also thinking about the Popeyes a few years ago. I don't know, like whenever the whole chicken sandwich craze, where like people were literally like lining up, like traffic jams are like happening to like get this Popeyes fried chicken sandwich. And so, so those, I guess those were the things that I guess is where the first half of the movie kind of like kept me like, kind of like engaged and laughing and stuff
Hmm.
because those were between all those cultural references and stuff that were going on there, I kind of laughed. And like the hair product and, to keep people, try to keep people docile with using the hair product and the chicken being the thing that would keep, the folks in line and, and the music and all those little aspects of it. Those were the kind of things that were like, oh yeah. And then even like the movie when it first started out with the convenience store, I'm like, I mean, you go to that's like, hey, that's like, I remember like in the bottom near where
Right.
my grandmother's house was, like, the convenient, that was, I was like, that's the store. I mean, that was the store you would see. So I think there were just like so many, and the reason why I wanted to talk with you about this, because this film in particular is, just to like get a different perspective from my perspective for as someone to get yours, because like, all our usual like, reviewers and stuff, yeah, they're not talking about this film, as far as the
No.
kind of funnies and stuff. So, so as far as like the traditional folk popular culture shows aren't like talking about this film. So I was really looking forward to get your perspective, because we watched this, we watched both worlds and see what you took out of it as far as some of those cultural components and then how did that, impact you as far as building up the story. Um, and especially how, with the ending and stuff like that. So I think maybe that's part of the reason why our reactions to it are kind of different, as far as like why maybe the first bit worked better for me than it did for you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I've born and raised in Alaska. Like,
Yeah.
and I've never been to the South. I've never been to the
Yeah.
South.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah.
like I've heard about, I randomly, when I was hanging out with my brother and sister-in-law back in November, I was staying with them for like a week, and we've stumbled upon this very obscure show on Netflix about food, and
Mhm.
like every episode they would break down a history of like an infamous food item, and like pizza or burgers or steak. And they would like go outside of the US and just like trace it back. And there was one whole thing about fried chicken.
Mhm.
Which is interesting because not all of the episode focused on the South in America. It
Right.
also brought in like Korean fried chicken
Yeah.
and how Asians are obsessed with fried chicken. Like crazy obsessed. Like there's always a KFC over
Yeah.
there in the cities. So it was just interesting. So I saw the culture references that you just brought up. They didn't hit me in that way just because I'm not like that there isn't anything that ties me to them. I
Yeah.
should say, from my perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think this movie, like a lot of movies, especially independent movies or smaller films, movies that are released straight to a streaming service, with the strike going on and everything, it's hard to get publicity out there. It's hard to market these things. And we also have these huge blockbusters
Yeah.
happening. I mean, I'm still racking my brain how I'm ever going to see Past Lives because I know it's out, but I don't see a streaming service and I'm still wondering. I know it's going to come out sooner rather than later. But that's a movie that I really want to watch. And
Yeah.
I just have to be patient. That I know a few people are talking about, but mainly like big, movie critics like, Jeff Snyder. I know he's seen it. He liked it.
Yeah. I heard Jeff talking about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But yeah.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but speaking of the South and stuff, just getting to some of the performances and things within the movie. Of course, Jamie Foxx was, Jamie Foxx. I mean, what can you say? And also, it's great that he's doing better now because I know he had that health episode earlier this year. But John Boyega, I was like, wow. His act, he really surprised me because I haven't, outside of Star Wars and I think maybe one or two other things, I haven't really watched much of his other work. But whenever he started talking about Les Fontaine, I was like, man, I grew up with a guy like that. I mean, I was, he's Nigerian British and I just have to say, I mean, he was super great as a character. And then, Tiana Parrish, I mean, she was just, yeah, I mean, like you said, Yo-Yo was probably the most complete character in this film. And the things that, and her dreams and aspirations and stuff that, she wanted to get to Memphis and get out of the Glen and we, and then when we go to her house and see all the trophies and things like that, she really like, she was on that track, but then, but when you get into the whole, this movie really explores some of the systemic things that are out there that like cause people, whether it's race, class, economic status, whatever, how hard it is to break those cycles. So that's another thing that I really liked about this film too, because I mean, obviously this film was really focusing more on race, but you could easily like graft this story onto to economic class, socioeconomic status and class. And as far as those institutional barriers that, keep people from being upwardly mobile. So, I mean, I think that's another thing that this film worked, on multiple levels as well.
Right. Right. I didn't say that she was the most complete. I said she was the most who felt like a character from present day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I guess I took that as like what you can relate to, I guess.
Well, yeah, she didn't seem like she was from the past. Like the other characters, when I was breaking them down, they felt like they were in a movie from a different era. And I was like, okay, this is what year are we?
Yeah.
For friends still?
Yeah.
Where are these? Because I'm very confused by some of this.
Yeah. The other thing, another like the set piece, I know that I noticed. I was like, that looks like the underground, not the underground, the where the butts were in Doom Patrol, as far as the labs. I was
You
like,
paid way too much attention to that.
I know, no, yeah, it
Oh
just,
my God.
well, I think I'm missing Doom Patrol. I was like,
That is
and then I
a
didn't put the connection. It's like,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah. I was like, yeah. Well, it's from Atlanta, so it makes sense because the Doom Patrol is also filmed there too. So, but, yeah, just like I said, I mean, and yeah, between that and then, oh yeah, the other thing that I really, the whole like, David Allen Greer, as far as the preacher
Hmm.
and I just, again, just, yeah, that the whole scene there in the church and again, just how institutions can be utilized to like do good or do bad and like, and then how they like interwove that into the story. And it's just like, uh, that was just another like really solid like beat for me again. I think that I was like, okay, as the story, as things were like moving along and progressing along, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see this. I see where they're going here. Um, and how they use that. And of course, just, I guess this atmospheric stuff too, that was just going on there. Just brought back a lot of memories, I guess, for me is just when I was watching that film.
Yeah. Yeah. I will be shocked if you get more nostalgic when you watch Barbie.
Oh, yeah. Can't say that I will. But yeah, even cause my daughter never was ever into Barbie dolls at all. As much as my mother like tried to like make,
No,
make her wear
yeah,
pink and all that stuff.
right. And I don't think a lot of girls born in the 21st century are like
Yeah.
avid Barbie dolls, but everyone still knows what it is.
Hmm.
Like what, so I don't know, it'll be interesting, whenever I do watch it. What I was gonna say is, I don't know, Will, because I keep hearing that the movie should be retitled to say Ken. Like Ken steals the movie in some
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
So, and for some reason I keep seeing like TikToks of Ryan Gosling singing Ken songs and if he's Ken enough and my
Hmm.
God, the humor. So yeah. Well,
Huh. Yeah.
well, we are glad that we recorded tonight because due to scheduling and schedule conflicts and life, we have to take the next 2 weeks off. But we will be back after that. We don't know. We have to talk about this, but we will be back to talk about Ahsoka for sure. So
Hmm.
at the end of
Yep.
this month.
Yep.
So the next 2 weeks are going to be off, and then we'll be back, and we'll be
Yeah.
breaking down Ahsoka. We have other
Yeah.
shows coming back, and then Loki season 2 in October.
Yeah.
And probably for the rest of the year, we'll have somewhat of a steady stream of content that we can love, we can hate, but we will definitely talk about. So
Yeah.
on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will and Polk, WILLMPOLK, and check out, I'll be breaking down the episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, this weekend as well.
Yeah. And Will we talk doing his blurred talk shows while we're on hiatus. So you'll hear at least one of us for a little bit. So
Yeah.
be on the
Yeah.
lookout for that. And you can follow me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on X or Twitter. Actually,
Yeah.
wait,
Post this,
I need to redo that. Please
yeah.
follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.